Hi everyone, I'm Saleha and this is Chai, Chat and Community. Before we begin tonight's episode, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting tonight, and I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Tonight, we are chatting about racism and bullying, something that is very prevalent in our society and something we as multicultural people never talk about. To talk more about this, I'm joined by Sumaya Harare, who is an author and a digital creator. But before I introduce you to Sumaya, I would like to give you some stats. Did you know that approximately 1 in 4 year 4 to year 7 Australian students have been bullied? Approximately 1 in 5 school students have been bullied online, of which hurtful teasing was most common, followed by hurtful lies. 84% of students bullied online were also bullied in person. 32% of year 5s and 29% of year 8s reported frequent bullying. Students who bully others online also bully others in person. Students may not report bullying to the school because they are afraid of not being believed or making things worse. 72% of schools reported managing bullying at least once in the previous year. Shocking stats, isn't it, Sumaya?
Very, very shocking. And I mean, yeah, it has been my experience as well growing up. And I am actually also a public speaker that goes into schools and talks about my experience. And for me, it was just not about the hurtful teasing. For the first probably 6 months, I couldn't understand what people were saying. So there was also the language barrier, which actually my book is about. But you can still tell that people are talking about you because you can still tell the body language, the tone of voice, and you can pick it up even if you don't understand what they're saying.
Of course. So before we delve into your book, which I'm sure is you said has been online, is on Amazon since
Yes.
August. Tell us something about yourself, where your life as a child and now as a young adult.
Well, my life as a child, I came to Australia when I was 7 with my family. And I was actually really excited because when we were in Kenya, I used to watch a cartoon called Blinky Bill. And for me, that was Australia. So I thought I would see kangaroos and koalas everywhere. And I love animals. So I was really excited to see them. But that wasn't the case. They're not as everywhere as I thought they would be. And when I came here, it was it was definitely different because I was in Kenya for a few years before we came here, and it was loud, there was a lot of people, and even though I understood what was being said in the language, it was just the hustle bustle even late at night. Whereas when I came here, it was midnight when we arrived in Melbourne, and it was dead quiet, and there was barely anyone on the
What a
street.
shock, isn't it, for
It
all
was
of
such a
us who come
shock.
from
And I
different
would think,
countries? Yes.
where is everyone? So we came here and it was interesting settling in, but we were put into school very quickly, and even without the language, and we didn't have a lot of support. I definitely didn't have a lot of support. I had 45 minutes of ESL class a week, and that really didn't do much. And I could also see my parents struggling as well to adapt to a new environment. And my mum just had a baby as well. So there was a lot going on in the house. And you kind of took notice, even from a young age, that because everyone else is going through it, you should probably try to lessen your problems as much as possible.
We learn
And
from a very young age, isn't it?
we
We all
do.
adjust.
Exactly. So I felt very much a burden if I did try to talk about anything that I was going through growing up. Yeah.
So, what prompted you to write the book?
I wanted I wanted to share my story, but also in a way that makes other children who are going through what I went through feel seen. And I remember I felt very alone in my experience growing up. So I didn't want other children to feel that way. And with what's going on in the world, there are a lot of refugees and people being displaced. So children are going to go through the experience that I went through. It's inevitable. And I wanted this experience to be a little less hard, at least so they feel seen. But also in the book, it also shows how people who live here and children who live here and have the language can also be of service and help and support, and how it takes one kind word to basically change a child's life. And so it shows on both ends how, if you're not going through it, how you can support someone who is.
So what age group are you targeting, and what exactly? You've just told me what your message is, but what
Yes.
age group are you targeting?
My age group, the age group that I'm targeting is 4 to 8, and it's very simple, easy to read. The pictures are they show you, even without words,
What you're feeling
is happening, exactly what you're feeling. So the emotions are captured well. And yeah, it's a very easy read. Parents can read it to their children, even younger. I do believe that the younger you start with children, the better a message can spread. So you can spread a message of kindness, and they will act it out in schools. But also, they also pick things up from parents. So if you act the way you want your child to act, then of course they copy when they're very young.
You want to be a mirror image for your child and a good role model.
Exactly. Yeah.
So many years ago, about 10 years ago, a psychologist once said to me that children actually start bullying from the age of 3, and it starts with simple things like, inviting you for my birthday party, but not inviting the second person, or not inviting the fifth person, and then, or something as simple as, me telling you, look at that boy or girl, and look at the funny dress that they're wearing or shoes that they're wearing. And I remember a friend of mine, her daughter didn't want to go to school because all her friends were wearing $200 shoes, and she was a single mom and she could not afford it. And she's like, nah, what are my friends going to say? Is that still happening? Did you face any of that?
Oh, I definitely faced that. I couldn't play with the other kids because I didn't have the toys that they had, because my parents didn't have a lot of money when they came. And I couldn't ask for that, for what I wanted, because I knew it was expensive and I knew they were going through it as well. And so I was excluded because I didn't have those toys. And I also got bullied for something as simple as a tuna sandwich. So it wasn't even my cultural food. It was just a tuna sandwich. And I got bullied because, it smells. And, people were like, disperse, like sit away from me. So it was really hard. And I didn't understand any of it.
How traumatizing as a child, isn't it?
And
it
definitely
obviously
is,
has
yeah.
remained because you've written a book on it.
Yes, it has remained, and it's definitely something that I have been working through. And I think for me, when it came, I bottled it all in. So everything that I experienced out there, I couldn't bring home, and I couldn't talk to anyone about it. So I was very alone in my world and the problems that I was going through. And so for me, it manifested as social anxiety. So as I became older, I faced really severe social anxiety, where every time I would talk to someone, I would avoid it like the plague. But if I had to, I would feel as though they're already judging me. They don't like me. So these thoughts are in your head constantly. And even though the person is just making eye contact and listening to you, in your mind, they're picking apart everything about you, and it's all negative. And so you start to feel very unworthy, and you lose confidence as well.
And again, I remember when I first came here, the one of the people I met, and she said to me, "You speak very good English for an Indian." And more recently, someone said, "You don't really look like an Indian. You're much lighter." And I'm like, "Wow, okay." This still happens. It's not just kids; it's also grown-ups who make these nice
Yes,
comments, and these parents. The children are listening to their parents, and obviously, they carry it back with them, and then
exactly.
um, so like you said, the pictures and the book, the content is very, very easy. So with the children going back to school, and they've gone back to school, well, most of them last week, what message would you like to give to parents? And I'll combine the two questions that I have for you. We always tend to think that our child is being bullied. It's also the other way around. Our child also may also bully another person. So what are the signs that the parents can pick up? So shall we do, how do you know whether your child is being bullied? What are the signs?
I think, in my opinion, at least from my experience, definitely a change in behavior and isolation, because that is what I did a lot growing up. I didn't feel connected to my family at all. And I just, yeah, kept to myself a lot. And even though I did interact with them, it was more because I had to, because you can't just ignore your parents. So for me, it was definitely that. But also, because I was being bullied and I had no other outlet, I was also from time to time lashing out at my siblings, and particularly my younger sister, because she was younger than me. And we shared a
So,
room. So that was really hard.
so
So
bullying manifests itself in many
it
ways, isn't
did.
it?
It does, yeah, because it's not just other people, it's your siblings as well. And I really did, because there was also a big age gap between us. There's 8 years between us. And as a teenager, when everything has been boiling up basically within me, we were put in the same room. So I felt like I didn't have any space. So I felt
Yeah.
quite suffocated. And she was a very outgoing little girl. She wanted that love, the spending time with us. She wanted that, the emotional connection. And that was something that I had very much closed myself off of for a long time as growing up. So I lashed out whenever she tried to reach out. And you would think, oh, it's just siblings bickering. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes
It's
it's
more
so
than
much
that.
more than that. Yeah. So because I didn't have that, it was very much, I can take it out on someone else because I didn't have any other outlet to
Who's
let
smaller
this.
than you?
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. And for someone being the bully, I think also definitely the behavior, but also I think in general, someone who has a really good home life, someone who isn't going through that sort of trauma, isn't usually the type to do that to other people. But I mean, obviously, there could be exceptions to the rule, but generally, a happy person isn't bullying other people. So there's also something going on there. But I think also change in behavior is the number one. If there's more aggression, if there's more isolation as well, and only wanting to spend time with friends instead of family, yeah, those things definitely is something probably to look out for.
So would you suggest parents actually vet their children's friends? Because, from a young age, you're talking about 4 to 8.
Mm,
It's like, little boys going to play footy, and,
yeah.
rough play is something that they all do. And
Yes.
now they're saying you shouldn't be doing it, but how do you know that it's not part of the game?
Yeah, I think there's a very fine line between rough play and actual like aggression and fighting, because I've not always, but very rarely, me and my brothers, we would rough play, but sometimes when you feel overpowered, you do get angry, and then it turns
Of
to
course.
violence. So there's a very fine line. So I wouldn't say no rough play at all, because also it does, help with hand-eye coordination and that sort of thing. But there's a very fine line to watch out for. And I think it's all about consent, because you do say, okay, stop it, I've had enough. And if people don't listen to that, then that's when it can become quite violent as well.
Of course. So, both you and I are migrants. In fact, more than 50% of Australia are migrant. Most of us are. So, for the many migrants who have moved into the country, and this may be the first year that their child is going to school, some have moved countries recently, and the children may not know English. What would you tell them? And that's a scary thing, isn't it?
It's
Whether they go
terrifying.
to, yeah, whether they go to kinder, whether they go to prep or primary or secondary, it's always a
Yeah,
very, very scary feeling when your child is going to school for, the first day or the first week, the adjustment.
no, definitely. And I think having an open dialogue between you and your child is very important, but also not just open dialogue. Your child has to be able to trust you, because when I was a teenager, I felt like I really couldn't trust my parents, because if I did tell them something, I'd get in trouble for it, and then I'd get punished for it. So there was a lot of hiding things. So I think building that
So when did you
relationship.
did you open up to your parents at all? Because research says that children are more likely to talk to their parents than report bullying in school because, they may get into trouble or teachers may not believe them.
When I was being bullied, I didn't talk to my parents at all. No, I didn't tell them
Oh,
anything. I just kept it to myself. And the funny thing is, after the September 11 attacks happened, my mum was scared for us because she
can
thought we would
imagine.
be bullied. And then she sent us to an Islamic school, but she didn't already know that I was already being bullied and the attacks had nothing to do with it. And so, yeah, she was pretty much in the dark about it, I think, probably until I started this journey as a speaker. And yeah, I didn't really open up at all growing up because I didn't have that bond with them. And I didn't feel like I could talk to my mum about things because I felt like, oh, I'm going to get in trouble for it anyway. So I don't want to. And I think because of that, if I had that bond with her, it would have helped so much emotionally. But also, she was also growing emotionally as well, and
Of course.
as a person,
And
in a new environment. So she had a lot of obstacles in front of her as well. And yeah, so I think definitely building that bond is very important, because not only will they talk to you about being bullied, but there are horrible people out there, and if your child is targeted, they will feel comfortable coming to you if something happens.
absolutely. So talking to your children from a very young age
Yes,
is
and
is
creating a
absolutely paramount.
judgment-free space. Yeah.
Yes. So what if parents don't speak English? How do they go and speak to the teachers when their child comes to them and tells them that they are being bullied?
I think maybe they can seek support to get a translator. Perhaps if they have friends or family here that are bilingual, that can help as well. There are a lot more resources than there were when we came, because we came in 1998, so it was quite a while ago. So I think, yeah, looking for those kinds of support is definitely something that you definitely getting a translator is important, because
Oh,
at the end of the day, you do want to stand up for your child regardless of the language barrier.
perfect. Sumaya, is there anything else you would like to tell us? I especially want to know about you as a person, as a writer, which we never touched upon, which we normally should have first thing, but we didn't. So tell us what got you. I mean, we know why you started writing this to bring awareness, and so that other children can benefit from what you've written, and their
Yeah.
parents too. And you said it's easy to understand. So tell me a bit more about yourself. You when did the bullying stop? When did you decide this was your time to kind of, break out of it, talk about it, and share your journey with people? Because that by itself is very, very tough. A lot of people will not do it.
So for me, the bullying stopped probably when I got into high school. So all throughout primary school, I was bullied. Um, I thought things were going to change when we moved to the Islamic school because I thought, oh, well, we're all Muslim, it should be fine. But it wasn't, because then there were cliques from
Really?
nationalities. Yeah, people were forming cliques of nationalities. So Afghanis only hung out with Afghanis. And so there wasn't a Somali girl in my class to hang out with. And there was one other girl who was also bullied. So I just hung out with her. So we were kind of bullied together, which I didn't mind. At least I had someone, you know?
I
Um,
cannot believe this because you come from a different community or a different country and
yeah,
you look different.
the problems still
But
persisted. So, and when I got into high school, by that time, I kind of resigned to the fact that, oh, well, I'm going to be bullied here as well. So I gave up. But surprisingly, I made a friend on orientation day who's still my friend to this day. And she introduced me to her friends. So high school for me was relatively easy when it came to bullying at school. And we didn't have a lot of social media. Facebook was just starting
yep,
then.
yeah, yeah,
So I think I escaped that part, because cyberbullying is crazy nowadays.
it is.
It's intense. And people do say, oh, then just, turn off your screen and walk away. But it's not that easy, because social media is a part of life. And you can't just walk away, especially teenagers. So it's how they communicate with their friends, how they share parts of who they are. So it's very hard to just walk away from that. And so high school for me was relatively easy, but I still did have that social anxiety, and it was really hard for me going through uni as well. There was one incident that I remember. I was doing a presentation and I made a mistake in the presentation that I wasn't taught how to correct yet. And the teacher, instead of telling me how to correct it, he just went off at me and, said things
In front
like,
of everybody.
in front of everybody, saying things like, you'll never make it in this industry, these are very simple mistakes, things like that. And I was so very close to having a breakdown then. And I couldn't go through the rest of the day. I just left. The first break we got, I left. And then I came home. Throughout the train journey, I just wanted to break down, but I had to keep it in. And so it was already hard enough for me to do that presentation in front of people. And then for him to do that, it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And I didn't understand what was happening, because it was the first time that I had a breakdown. And so when I got home and I went through that, I even thought, okay, well, definitely people aren't kind. Everyone is judging you, and everyone's probably talking about you, in that class or whatever. And so I didn't go to his classes anymore. There was like 5 weeks left. I didn't attend any class. I just did the work, because I just couldn't bear facing him, because he was
Did you report him at
really,
all?
at the end, yeah. And it wasn't just me, it was the class as well, because a lot of people did not like him. He was like that to everyone. And so a lot of people did end up reporting him as well. Yeah.
And now you're a public speaker. Good on you.
Exactly, which I happened to stumble into, honestly, by mistake.
Not mistake at all. This is awesome.
Yes, I think a happy accident. I think, because my mum is a public speaker as well, so I used to go around with her taking photos for her,
Yeah.
for her social media, and for me, I just wanted to take the pictures and leave. I didn't want any of the attention. But of
No
course,
hanging
people will
around.
come, no hanging around. But of course, people will come to you and, tell you, oh, your mom's amazing. And then they start asking about you.
Yep.
And so I would tell them about me. And one of the mothers was like, oh, like your story should be in schools. We need to hear it. And she actually organized something with her daughter's school. And so that was my first speaking engagement in 2018. And I
Excellent.
thought it would just be her daughter's class, but it actually ended up being around 500 students from grade 6 to 12.
Wow.
Yeah. And I didn't know until I should have done my due diligence, but I didn't. And I didn't know until I got there and just saw an assembly full of girls.
Awesome. This is so good. This is so good. I should introduce you to someone who also talks to school and talks about reclaiming your identity.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and he goes all over Australia talking to kids. Yeah, he's awesome. Yes, this is amazing. What a journey. And good on you. Congratulations. Where can people buy your book?
So it's on my website. There's a link to it on my website, sumayaharare.com.au, and it'll take you to Amazon, to the Amazon, yeah.
And you said it's already in schools.
Yes. I went to a speaking engagement in November last year, and the class had read my book and they'd been talking about it, and they had it when I was there. Yeah, so I didn't expect it because I wasn't told that they did. So yeah,
What a pleasant surprise then.
It was.
Congratulations. This is awesome. I wish there were more young people like you who would, come and talk about what they're going through, because this is important conversations which we just don't have. And I hope mothers are watching and, will talk to their kids, whether they are being bullied or they are the bully, because like I said, most of us don't want to believe that our children can be bullies. It's always think that our kids are the perfect kid.
Yeah.
Most of them are, some are not.
Exactly.
And like you said, it doesn't matter where you study, whether you study in an Anglo-Saxon school or an Islamic school or all-girls school or all-boys school. It happens everywhere.
Exactly, definitely.
Thank you so much for joining me, Sumaya. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
I wish you all the luck. It's been a pleasure.
You.
All the best. Keep in touch. Let me know how your book goes, and I will introduce you to this other person.
Amazing.
Okay. Thanks everyone for watching and for joining us tonight. Look after yourself. It's very, very hot here. Apparently tomorrow is a good weather. But anyway, if you're in Melbourne, weather is something we never discussed. Take care of yourself and see you soon. Bye, Sumaya.
Bye.